Good evening again to everyone. Thank you so much for joining our event tonight. We have some important messaging for you before we start the program. So we'll go through that and then we'll get started. Thank you.
Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated will be filming, recording, and photographing this event for use in Delta promotional videos, photography, advertisements, social media platforms, web pages, and other future Delta events as the case may be. By continuing to remain logged into this event, you hereby acknowledge that participant may be photographed, filmed, or otherwise recorded while in the event. Grants Delta, its successors, assigns, and licensees irrevocable consent to include participants' name, likeness, photographic image, mannerisms, and voice or other recording in the production or for exploitation for any purpose whatsoever in any and all media known or hereafter devised throughout the universe in perpetuity without compensation and or credit. Represents, warrants, and agrees that Delta holds and shall forever hold all display, publications, and ownership rights, licenses, and privileges to any and all media, whether in law or in equity, which may be asserted, ascertained, registered, or in any way utilized with respect thereto, and waives, releases, and transfers, as the case may be, any and all such rights, whether in law or equity, as may be necessary or required to effectuate Delta's establishment of ownership.
Welcome to our Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated community event. We are delighted you chose to be with us today. We want you to have a wonderful experience. Please be assured your safety as well as your enjoyment of the event are our utmost concern. Please take a moment, look around, and identify the nearest two exits. Whether in a virtual setting at your home or physically in some formal venue, we must always remain ready. So, please identify two exits in your current location. In the event it is necessary to evacuate quickly and orderly. Also, during this post-COVID-19 pandemic, even if you have been vaccinated and boosted, although optional, we encourage you to please continue to wear your mask, wash your hands, and keep a safe walking distance from others. Please enjoy the event and continue to be safe. Welcome.
And thank you all again for joining us. At this time, I have the pleasure of inviting our chapter president to the virtual stage. Can you please put your hands together in your virtual reaction for the Central Jersey Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta's chapter president, Ms. Patricia Williamson.
Thank you so much, Sora. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, wonderful. Good evening, everyone, Soras and guests. Again, my name is Patricia Williamson, and I apologize. I'm off camera because I'm in transit, Patricia, and I am unable to come on camera. But I do want to welcome you to Peace in the Season, a holiday healing event. Central Jersey Alumni Chapter is celebrating 50 years. And I want to just mention that although we are so pleased that we have had 50 years of impact and legacy in our community, this is a time for some of us that celebrating is a little bit difficult. So during a time that can feel especially heavy, we come together to pause, to breathe, and to make space for healing. This program is offered with compassion and care for anyone who's carrying grief, loss, or longing during the holiday season. So may tonight bring moments of peace, connection, and gentle hope as we walk this journey together. I want to thank our Physical and Mental Health Committee, our Technology Committee, and the chairs, all of whom are here for bringing this at such an important time. And so once again, welcome. And I now turn this back over to Physical and Mental Health Committee.
Thank you so much, Madam President. Please be safe in your travels, and thank you again for joining us this evening. And so I want to run through a few housekeeping items. Before I do that, I'd like to introduce the tri-chairs of the Physical and Mental Health Committee of the Central Jersey Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. I am Tracy Watkins, one of your tri-chairs. We have Stacey Gregory, who will be the host for tonight's event. And then we have Dr. Mia Kirk, who you will hear from a little bit later in the program. I am seeing that some of you already know how to use your reactions, but those of you who are a little bit more new to Zoom, if something is said tonight that resonates with you and you want to agree with it, if you go into the panel at the bottom, you can hit your react button. There are thumbs up, there are hearts, there are applause. If something is funny, laugh. But we want to do these things just to encourage our speaker, our presenter, because even though we're virtual, we can still participate. Additionally, if all of your mics are going to be muted throughout the program, if you have a question, or again, if you want to just affirm your agreement with something, feel free to type that into the chat. Again, for our Zoom newbies, you go into it at the bottom, the panel, you'll see chat, and you're able to type to an individual or to the entire group. And so without further ado, I will ask Stacey to go ahead and get us started.
Okay, and good evening again. I am Stacey Gregory, one of the tri-chairs for the Physical and Mental Health Committee, and today I have the esteemed honor of introducing to you our facilitator for tonight. She is none other than Kia Alexander, LCSW, or should I say Soror Kia Alexander. Kia is a soror of the Central Jersey Alumni Chapter, and for me to formally introduce you to her, I will read Kia's bio before we get started. So Kia Alexander is a licensed clinical social worker and is currently on staff at Rutgers University as a community-based counselor for the Counseling Center and is embedded in the Paul Robeson Cultural Center and the Discovery Advantage First Year Neighborhood. Kia owns a private practice called Journey to Peace, LLC, in Central New Jersey, where she provides individual counseling for adults and offers presentations and workshops. She has many years of experience in providing therapeutic interventions to support the needs of children and adults in various stages of life. Kia believes therapy is a partnership with the client, therapist, and other professionals providing mental health services. Through a strength-based perspective, she strives to ensure that her clients leave each session with coping strategies, a better understanding of their diagnoses, and resources they can store in their coping skills toolbox. Her therapeutic modalities of choice are cognitive behavior therapy and dialectical behavior therapy. Kia believes in many cases, these modalities help the client challenge negative thoughts, manage unhealthy patterns, and better cope with obstacles. Kia is a proud member of the Central Jersey Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated and is the co-chair on the Board of Trustees for the New Jersey Coalition Against Sexual Assault. In her free time, Kia enjoys reading, watching movies, and spending time with family and friends. Please join me in giving a very warm welcome using your reaction buttons to my soror, Kia Alexander.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us tonight, Kia. We appreciate it. So we're going to start the session off with what we thought was some very commonly asked questions about grief during the holiday season. And we ask that you please feel free to take notes, as Kia's responses to these questions that I'm going to ask her will definitely include some helpful strategies and coping mechanisms that I'm sure all of us will have some takeaways. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so Kia, my first question for you is, how does grief tend to show up differently during the holiday season compared to other times of the year?
So, grief shows up differently in general, but especially during the holiday season, because it's a high expectation time. Like, so and so's going to cook this meal, the person's going to cook that pie, and expectations for people to be at so and so's house and ready to enjoy family, right? but people sometimes forget that grief can hit us in waves. So we may be fine throughout, the first half of the year, but then when it comes to Thanksgiving and Christmas or whatever holidays you celebrate, grief could heighten and make it a little bit more stressful, and you may not feel like spending time with your family or friends in that specific time. And I think it's important to note that grief is not just losing someone. It could be the loss of a job, it could be a loss of a friendship, it could be a loss of what you thought your life was going to be like, and especially during this time, maybe if you thought that you would be married by now or you would have children by now or whatever it is that you thought would be, it could be it's highly tense situation if you're dealing with that type of grief. So I think it's important to allow yourself space to grieve, and allow others space to grieve if they're going through that, and just meet everything with empathy.
Definitely. We all know that, we're living in times where the economy is not the best. A lot of companies have done layoffs. And so
Hmm.
that definitely resonates with me that it's not just about the loss of a loved one. It could definitely be about the loss of relationships, employment, et cetera. So thank you for highlighting that.
Hmm.
So, Kia, what should people do when others try to fix their grief or encourage them to move on or get over it? And I'll say, hopefully she's not on the call, but I have a family member and she's saying this for this, and it comes from her faith, right? She,
Hmm.
she's a devout Christian, so she
Hmm.
feels that, everything happens for a reason and is you can't dwell on it, you have to move on. So how do you handle a person who tries to fix the grief for you or encourage you to move on?
So the first thing I would do is probably find somebody else to talk about your grief to, because we can't fix anyone, even those of us who are mental health professionals. People, your primary care doctor, they can't magically fix everything. So I think it's important to listen to people who are going through something troubling, especially the loss of a loved one. And I think it's unfair and a little bit disrespectful to say, like, I just want you to be fixed and get over it, because as we know, grief, like I said before, it comes in waves. So we could be fine today, we could be fine right now, and then when we get off of this call, be flooded with grief. So I think it's important to know who you can trust when you're going through different things, and trust them with your feelings, trust them with what you're going through, and trust them enough to know that they're not going to immediately try to fix you. And I think one thing you could say is like, right now I'm not really looking for advice. I just need you to listen to me. I just need you to hear what I'm saying. If I do want advice, I'll ask you, but please just listen. Um, and if it still continues, like I said, I would probably choose somebody different to speak to.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hmm.
So, Kia, is it normal to feel joy during the holiday season, even while you're grieving? And how can people allow themselves to experience both grief and joy without feeling guilty about it?
Hmm. Of course, I think it's very normal to feel joy during grief. Sometimes depending on what we lost, it may feel good in a way. So say if somebody passed away, maybe they were suffering and it was hard to watch them suffer. I lost my grandfather in 97, and we all were around when he passed away. That was hard to be around, but he was suffering. So I believe he's in a better place. And looking down on us and just happy that we're all, having joy and remembering him in the good times. And also, I don't think it's great to wallow in grief and sit in grief and just like let it consume you. I think you should allow yourself to grieve, but also allow fun times and laughter and time with your family and friends, the ones that are not trying to fix you, and just, allow yourself to be surrounded by love and joy. And, it's not going to make the feelings go away. It's not going to mean that you're not remembering the person or remembering what you lost. It's just finding joy in other things, because there's so many things going on right now in the world that we could just be sad about and just not want to be around other people. But there's also more things that we could be happy about and find joy in and love.
Yeah, and I like the example you gave with your grandfather. I personally do believe that our loved ones who have gone on would want us to be happy
Hmm.
and not be sad forever, at least not sad all the time, and
Hmm.
actually, find some joy in
Right.
the holiday season for sure.
Right. Because we deserve that. We deserve joy. Everyone deserves joy.
Definitely.
Hmm.
So, what are some helpful ways to honor a loved one during the holidays without deepening the sadness?
Hmm. So, speaking of my grandfather, I think that it's important to remember the things that they instilled in us or to remember the things that made us feel good about them. And one of the things that my grandfather had, he really was into learning Spanish. And back then there were cassette tapes. I hope everybody on here knows what a cassette tape is. Um, and he had about 10 or 20 cassette tapes with different Spanish lessons on it. And he was listening to them all the time. My grandparents babysat me, so I heard them a lot. And that just fed into me knowing how to speak Spanish today. So he was really into it. It made me be really into it. So I took Spanish from second grade all the way up into college, and I'm able to somewhat fluently speak today. So I think remembering what people brought to our lives and how they made us feel and like incorporating that into the present day. So if your loved one like I'm gonna get in trouble, the Giants or the Cowboys or something like that, then maybe you could spend, the days that football comes on, Sundays, Thursdays, I don't know, and watch the games and just, live in that memory of your loved one.
And
Mhm.
don't feel bad. I know nothing about football, even though my
Yeah.
son played for many years. So, and
Yeah.
what are some grounding techniques or mindfulness practices that can help in the moment when grief is
Mhm.
intense?
Yeah, so my favorite grounding technique, I don't know the official name, but it is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can smell, 2 things you can touch, and 1 thing you can taste. And it's something that you could do in your mind. Nobody has to know that you're doing it. Because I think sometimes people feel shy or feel some type of way about their own struggles. Like, so if you're grieving or if you're dealing with anxiety, people don't want other people to know, which, that's fine, but also understand that everybody has something that they're going through. And maybe if you use that skill in front of them, maybe that'll help them with something that they're going through. So I like that skill. And I also like there's a skill in dialectical behavior therapy or DBT. It's called the tip skill. And so the first one is tip the temperature. So like say if you're feeling like very anxious or you're feeling like you're in a crisis, um, if you take like an ice pack and put it on your forehead and act as if like you're diving into a pool, it'll lower your heart rate and it tips the temperature. So it's making you cool down and also relax your breath. So that's one thing. And then the I in tip is intense exercise. So you could do intense exercise for like 10 minutes. So that could be running up the stairs, it could be jumping jacks, it could be a dance routine, anything like that. And then it's 2 P's. So the first P is pace breathing, which we're gonna do a little bit later. So like breathing in for 4 counts, breathing out for 8, breathing in for another 4, and then breathing out for another 8. And then the last P is progressive muscle relaxation, which is basically like a guided meditation, similar to what we're going to do later. And it helps you relax your body and try to like center yourself and be more mindful of where you are in the moment.
Wow, those are all great. I'm glad this session is being recorded so I can and listen
Yeah.
because I've never actually had the opportunity to utilize any of those.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
thank you. Okay,
Hmm.
so the reverse question of a question I asked you earlier, right?
Hmm.
Um, so the reverse of the question, the family member who we're kind of staying away from, and we're going
Yeah.
to seek our support from someone who's a little more supportive.
Right.
How can people support loved ones who are grieving, even if they grieve differently?
Right. So I think the most important part of that is knowing that people grieve differently and understanding that people aren't going to do what you want them to do. or they may not do it like you do. My mother always says that, like, Kia, not everybody's like you. And it's hard sometimes to realize that, but that's something that we have to remember. And also, I think I said this before, lead with empathy and know that everybody is going through something. And just because they're managing it differently than you, as long as they're safe, be there for them, be supportive, listen. That's really important, to listen and not listen to answer, but listen just to hear what they're saying. Like, you don't want to have a conversation with someone who's like finishing your sentences or completing your thoughts or thinking they know what you're going to say. So just be there and be a good listener. And then, the maybe some of the tips that you learned today or maybe that you've learned before, you can share with them, knowing that they don't have to listen to you, but you're just trying to be supportive. So I think it's best the first thing you want to remember is that people are different and they're going to do things differently, and then lead with empathy.
Awesome. Okay. And I'll continue with my questions, but I'll just remind everyone on the call, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat because we actually have some time to take a couple of questions from the audience. So feel free to go ahead and do that. So Kia, what can a person do if the holiday season brings up grief from many years ago? Grief that they thought they had actually processed and gotten over, for lack of a better term.
Hmm.
Now it's the holiday, and all of a sudden they find themselves back in that same grief cycle.
Right. And I think just like we said before, it comes in waves. So we could think that we're over something. We could think that, oh, I don't even think about that anymore. But a TV show may come on, or you may see like a cardinal, because some people believe that when you see a cardinal, that's a loved one coming through.
Okay.
Um, you know, it could bring up memories. So I think it's okay to remember that it's okay for you to grieve. It's okay for you to have feelings. It's okay for you to take time to grieve instead of, like, sometimes people will be, you know, oh, I should have been over this by now, or, I should just get over it. But have you really like allowed yourself the time to process what actually happened? And of course, I'm a huge proponent for therapy. So it would be good to go to a therapist and talk to a therapist about your grief, specifically someone who like specializes in grief.
Mhm.
So I think it's a very touchy subject. And sometimes people may not know what to say. But if you go to a professional that specializes in that, they could help you build your skills in dealing with that.
So since you talk about, therapy and how important it
Mhm.
is, how would a person know when their grief is, and I don't, normal is the only word that comes to mind, but
Right.
like you said, everyone has a different grief journey, but how would a person know when their grief is healthy? I'll use that word,
Hmm. Okay.
versus they're dipping into the area where maybe it's best for them to talk to someone.
Right. So if I'll go to the opposite end. If you feel like if you notice like a person in your family or a friend is not doing the things that they used to do, maybe they're not answering your calls or your text messages, you haven't seen them a while where you usually see them, like say if you see them at church or a sorority meeting or at work and you're not seeing them like you used to. Or if you notice like maybe you go to visit and they're not keeping up with their hygiene like they used to, it might be time for them to seek professional help because the symptoms that I just named are similar to depression. Because grief can put you into a depression. It could also make you feel anxious. So if you notice that someone is not the way that they used to be, and I mean, grief is going to make you that way anyway, but if it's like incredibly intense and they're not doing the things that they used to. Maybe they're speaking differently about things, like not as energetic. If they've really like taken a turn, like a 180, then it might be time for them to seek professional help.
Okay. And
Hmm.
and we have I'll repeat the name of your practice for
Hmm.
those in the Central Jersey area who feel like they need to seek therapy. And I've always heard, like I have other friends who are LCSW, and
Hmm.
they say, everybody should be in therapy is their
Yeah.
perspective, especially LCSWs, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
seeking therapy, and I'm sure you can speak from that perspective,
Hmm. Hmm.
doesn't mean there's something wrong with you per se.
Absolutely not.
Sometimes you just need a professional to talk to help you sort things out, whether
Right.
it's about grief, other life
Mhm.
changes.
Exactly. I'm going to always say go to therapy because, we need someone that's objective. When I was younger, I told my mother I need to go to therapy, to speak to someone that's not family because sometimes family will say, "Oh, you'll be okay. You'll be all right." Or, if you're heavy in the church, like, "Oh, just pray about it. It'll be fine." And it's like, yes, and I could have a therapist. I could go to church on Sunday. I go to Bible study and I can have my therapy on Tuesday nights. Like, you can have all of those things. Because my philosophy is why would God have created this job if he didn't believe in it too? And why would he give me these skills? Why would he give my friends these skills if we would just don't use them? You know what I mean?
For sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I'm a Christian and I believe
Mhm.
the same thing. Like God has given
Mhm.
us, we have him, but then we also
Yes.
have, we have medicine, we have all these other things, but
Right.
it take us down a different rabbit hole. So we've talked a lot about grief, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, but also knowing that during the holidays, it's not just about grief from the perspective of the loss of a loved one, it
Hmm.
could be the loss of a job. So is there any advice or even a relationship, right?
Hmm.
But
Yes.
so many things, right? Life is hard. I
Yeah.
think we all agree. In
Yeah.
general, life is hard.
Hmm.
So, is there any advice or words of wisdom for people dealing with different types of grief that may not be attached to the
Hmm.
loss of a loved one and just feeling overwhelmed, like so much
Hmm.
going on, they can't go on, they may not be able to pay their bills, etc. Like, is there
Right.
anything you can offer from a hope perspective?
Right. So the social worker in me wants to give resources. So I have a friend actually that has been out of work for quite a while. And they regularly tell me to stop social working them because I notice a change. Like, of course, they're going through depression. They're anxious about like, when am I going to find a job? And I think it's important to normalize that because, we need work, we need money to survive, especially in this area of the country. Things are incredibly expensive. I don't know about anybody else, but my PSE&G bill doubled somehow. Um, so I think it's important to normalize that, you're in a tough spot right now, but there's going to be hope on the other side. There is hope on the other side. And I just told somebody the other day, like things that I prayed for years ago that I wanted right then when I prayed for it are happening now. So I think it takes patience, which I struggle with patience just like everybody else. It takes patience. It takes, if you believe in a higher power, praying, whatever it is you do to connect with that higher power, and understanding that I believe we're all doing this for something. And it's God knows the desires of our heart, and He's going to make our dreams and desires come true. And I think it's important to just remember that you're not alone. Um, and if someone, of course, I'm going to suggest therapy if you're going through whatever type of loss. And if you don't have a job, there's plenty of resources that offer free therapy, and I can share them. And, you know, I just think it's important to take care of yourself the best way you know how in a safe way. Um, Meaning, not using substances to, make yourself feel better. Um, some of us may shop to make ourselves feel better, but, just using things that will uplift you and edify you. So therapy, church, if you go, scripture, whatever it is that builds you up.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mhm.
That's excellent
Thank
advice. You don't want to make the situation worse, right? By
you.
using narcotics or anything else to
Right.
food. So thank you for
Mhm.
saying that.
Mhm.
And are there any questions in the chat?
Yeah.
No? Okay. All right. We're almost done. We'll be moving on to our next segment. Just think I'll be able to get two more questions in. So
Okay.
you talked about being patient with yourself, right?
Mhm.
You years ago you thought you'd be here and now you find that you're here, and that could be a source of grief for many
Hmm.
people. So what are some gentle ways to set like realistic expectations for ourselves
Hmm.
during this time? Like I know some people do vision boarding, journaling, but
Hmm.
what are
Hmm.
some we want to be good to ourselves and give
Hmm.
ourselves grace. So what are some gentle ways to set
Hmm.
some realistic expectations for ourselves?
Right. I think finding little pockets of joy is helpful. Um, One of my friends likes to watch Christmas movies like all throughout the year. I'm not a fan of Christmas movies. However, I think that um they're corny, so you know what's going to happen. You know it's all going to be great at the end. So pop in or pop on a Christmas movie and just, enjoy the corniness. That's one way. I like to dance, so sometimes if I'm feeling like stressed or anxious about something, I'll turn on some Bad Bunny or Beyonce and have a little fun in my living room. But I think it's important to, like I said, to allow yourself grace and know like this is a tough time. And you're not alone. Like there's plenty of like groups that help with grief during the holiday season or grief in general. And seeking out people that you know support you and that love you and care about you and want to see you do better, and not trying to fix you. So yeah, seek out people that you know that will wrap their arms around you, whether it's like literally wrapping their arms around you or sending you a positive text message, or maybe they send you a scripture that they like, or a movie that they like to watch when they're feeling sad. Finding little pockets of joy.
Awesome. Okay.
Hmm.
And last question before we move on to our next segment. Any
Hmm.
final words of encouragement or affirmations you could share with
Hmm.
anyone who's struggling during this holiday season for whatever reason? Just a
Hmm.
final summation from you.
Yeah, I would say to remember to allow yourself grace, be patient with yourself, know that you deserve joy, laughter, and to have fun regardless of the grief that you're going through.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Kia, for spending those 20, 30 minutes with us. I truly appreciate you answering all the questions. Thank you for your wonderful words of wisdom. And again, I will put in the chat the name of Kia's counseling office. You can
Mhm.
post the name here, but I'll also put it in the chat.
It's Journey to Peace, LLC. Mhm.
Awesome.
And
Okay.
it's all telehealth. It's not in person. Some people like to be in person, but it's all telehealth.
Even better because it's cold out there right now. Body wants to
Right.
go up, and you don't want having to leave your house to be the reason why you don't seek counseling. So thank.
Right.
Okay, so Kia, so now I am going to turn it over to you to
Hmm.
facilitate our guided meditation.
Okay. So for those who haven't done a guided meditation before, I'm just going to lead you through a meditation. You can find yourself a comfortable area if you want to continue sitting where you're sitting, or if you want to lay down. You may not want to lay down because you might fall asleep, but get in a comfortable position, and we're going to go through this meditation. There's going to be times when you hear me pause. That's just allowing you time to process what I say. You're going to try to take in full deep breaths. Sometimes people just take that's not a deep breath. If you have to feel like your stomach goes out, like, and then comes in, like you're not breathing through your chest, you're breathing through your diaphragm. So when I ask you to take a deep breath, think of that. Okay. So get in a comfortable position. Allow your body to be supported by the surface beneath you. If it feels safe and comfortable, gently close your eyes. If not, soften your gaze and look towards the ground. Take a slow breath in through your nose and a longer breath out through your mouth. Again, breathing in, steady and gentle, and breathing out, releasing tension from the jaw, the shoulders, and your hands. There's nothing you need to accomplish during this time. You are not here to fix your grief or make it go away. You are simply here to be present. Bring your attention to your natural breathing rhythm. Notice where you feel the breath most clearly, in the nose, chest, the belly, or the back. Without changing the breath, allow it to become an anchor, something steady you can return to whenever your mind drifts. If thoughts, memories, or emotions arise, gently acknowledge them and return your attention to the next inhale and then the next exhale. Silently say to yourself while you're breathing in, I am here. And when you breathe out, say to yourself, I am allowed to slow down. Grief during the holidays can feel especially heavy. Traditions, memories, and expectations may bring up longing, sadness, anger, numbness, or confusion. Remember, there is no right or wrong way to grieve. Bring gentle awareness to your emotional state right now. Without labeling it as good or bad, simply notice what is present. If it feels supportive, place a hand over your heart or your stomach or another area that feels tender. With each inhale, imagine offering yourself compassion. With each exhale, release any pressure to be okay. Silently repeat, this is hard, and I am meeting it with empathy. My grief deserves patience and respect. Now bring to mind a sense of connection that feels meaningful to you. This may be understood as God, a higher power, divine wisdom, our ancestors, universal love, nature, community, or simply a deep inner knowing. You do not need to define it or explain it. As you breathe, imagine being held by something larger than yourself, something grounded in compassion, justice, love, or peace. Silently reflect on the following phrases. I am not alone in my suffering. Love remains even in loss. I am supported in ways seen and unseen. Continue to slowly breathe in and out for a few moments. Now bring your attention back to the body. Notice your feet, your legs, your hips, and your lower back. If you notice tension anywhere, see if you can soften around it, not forcing it to disappear, just allowing space. Move awareness slowly up through the torso, the shoulders, the neck, and the face. Unclench your jaw and soften the space between your eyebrows. Silently repeat, I can carry grief and still care for my body. Small moments of ease are allowed. As you bring yourself back to this space, reflect on what you may need as you move through the rest of the day or the holiday season. This might be rest, boundaries, connection, prayer, movement, or permission to step back. silently set a gentle intention. I will honor my limits. I will seek support when I need it. I will move at my own pace. There is no rush. Grief unfolds in its own time. Begin to notice your breathing once more. Feel the surface beneath you. Gently wiggle your fingers and toes, inviting movement back into the body. When you're ready, slowly open your eyes or lift your gaze. Take one final deep breath in and release it fully. May you remember your grief is valid, your love is enduring, and you do not have to walk this season alone.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Key. I went off camera because I wanted to really focus and be in the moment, and I was able to do that. Thank you. Thank you so
Mhm,
much.
mhm,
Okay, so I did see a question come through the chat, and it was, I believe, in reference to therapy.
mhm,
Um, and the question is, I think the question is, are there any particular ages, right, or age
mhm.
limitations for seeking therapy?
For
For
me, for my practice, I only see adults, so 18 and over. Mhm. But I think therapy could be for all ages, from what, 3 to 95. I only said 95 because I know my grandmother is on here. She's 95.
Oh, wow. What an age.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay. Does any, and thank you, my sister did drop the name of your practice location. Thank you.
Mhm,
Are there any other questions from the audience? Now is your time. Any questions or reflections that anyone would like to share, or even my tri-chairs? I know I've
mhm,
talked a lot during this event, so if my tri-chairs have any questions or comments, feel free to come off mute.
I did have one question, Sorokia.
mhm,
So we just engaged in a guided meditation for individuals who are somewhat new to meditation and they don't have that guide with them,
mhm.
but they do want to engage. What advice do you have for them?
So there's this app I like called Headspace. Um, and they have like different tracks, so to speak. So they have different themes. So they might have like a Star Trek theme, or some random theme that you connect with that can gently bring you into it. There's Insight Timer is another app, and I believe that one is free. Um, Trying to think. There's Calm. Um, that one is good. I like that one mainly because Idris Elba has a guided meditation on there. So if you're an Idris Elba fan like I am, that might be helpful for you. Some might know him as my husband, but we won't have to talk about that right now.
Or
Uh,
our husband, our husband.
oh, we can talk about that offline. But yeah, I think apps are good. There used to be an app called Shine that was for people of color that had voices that are like ours. Unfortunately, they merged with Headspace, so now they have like just like a few meditations on there. I liked it because it was voices that we can connect with. A lot of times, meditation voices are not like ours, and we may not be able to connect, for lack of a better phrase. Mhm. So I would suggest that.
And
Mhm.
Kira, I just
Thank
thought about
you.
You're
support
welcome.
groups. I know it didn't come up in our discussion, but grief
Mhm,
support groups. Do you have
mhm.
any thoughts about that? And
So I don't know them offhand, but there's a few that if you check on NAMI, NAMI, National Association of Mental Illness, I believe. That's the umbrella organization, but then they have uh, uh, a group for just for Black people. So it's called Act Now. I know it's African American. I should know the whole acronym, but I don't right now. They have groups that they run that are virtual and in person. Facebook, I know Facebook has its like negatives, but it also has a lot of groups on there too, specifically for grief. And even if you want to dial it down to specific types of grief, you can do that also. Um, yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Mhm.
Any other questions from the chat? Okay, we have some thank yous in there. And so Mia, do you like you about to say something? If not, I have.
Yeah, I know you talked about this, and I know I'm not the only one. You spoke about it. There are moments when I'm fine, and I
Hmm.
might be driving down the parkway and it just hits me and I might
Hmm.
start crying or something like that.
Hmm.
Are you taught us a few strategies this evening, whether
Hmm.
it was the guided meditation or the
Hmm.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1 techniques. What
Hmm.
have you, in your personal experience or in your conversations with others, what types of strategies do people find
Hmm.
are best in that moment where it just comes out of nowhere
Right.
when you're like in the worst place possible, public setting, and you
Hmm.
just have to pull it together?
For me, it's just thinking about the good times. Like I'm gonna always probably go back to my grandfather because I was young when he passed away, and it really affected me and my family. So I think about the like the funny moments that we had, times when we really connected. Um, just I think it's important to always remind yourself that it's okay that you're feeling this way. And if you need to like step away from whatever it is that you're doing, I mean, you can't necessarily step away from the parkway, maybe pull over, and just allow yourself that moment to cry and let it out. I think journaling can be helpful. And the specific type of journaling I like to do is called a brain dump, which is nothing like no format, like whatever you're thinking in the moment, just write it out on the paper. Or I like to put it in my phone because that's more easily accessible. And a lot of times, like if I'm feeling anxious or a heavy feeling, I like to do the brain dump because it takes it off of me, off of my mind, off of my heart, and I can go and do what I need to do. And oftentimes, I'll forget that I even did that and I'll be looking for something else and find an old journal and be like, wow, I was really like, in my bag or in my feelings at that moment. But I think it's sometimes you could write something and then destroy that. So like maybe safely light it on fire or tear it up or destroy it in like a shredder or something like that as a symbolic way of releasing those feelings. Um, yeah, I think allowing yourself to feel is what's most important and normalizing that it's okay for you to be sad and feel, whatever it is you're feeling.
Yeah, and I'm far from anybody's therapist, but I am a person who suffered a significant loss. I lost my husband 4 years ago,
Hmm.
and I definitely have written letters to him
Yep. Hmm.
that because to your point, sometimes you just have to get out what it is that you
Yeah.
have to say. And also, remembering like my son and I, this year his birthday was December 7th. We
Hmm.
we went and bought a cake. We sang happy birthday after the
Hmm.
cemetery, and that, gave us something to do and to celebrate. And for the first time, it wasn't a sad occasion, his birthday. It wasn't a
Right.
sad occasion because we
Hmm.
actually laughed, or, we talk about, oh, dad would have loved this, or if the Steelers win, that was his football
Right.
team. So, and that's helpful, I think, for both of us. I speak for him. He's on
Mm.
the quiet side, so half the time I don't know what he's going through. But now that I'm some years out, things
Hmm.
like that we find helpful. And we were excited. What flavor cake should we get? Oh, I
Hmm.
think he would have liked this carrot cake, etc. So
Right.
I think remembering,
Hmm.
allowing yourself to have happy, fond memories,
Hmm.
knowing that your loved one would want you to be happy,
Exactly.
And but then when the grief hits, someone put in the chat, sometimes you just have to let it out,
Yep.
which is true. Sometimes you just have to let it out.
Yeah.
So I think a
Hmm.
combination of all of that, at least from my own personal experience over these 4 years, has
Hmm.
gotten me to a decent place.
Yeah. Yeah. And just like I think when my grandma tells stories about my pop and stories from when she's young, and I love hearing them because I mean, like I said, she's 95 and she's experienced so much that I would never even think of, you know what I mean? And listening to her stories about, when they first got married and raising children and stuff like that, she smiles when she tells those stories. So, yes, she's grieving, but it's still bringing some type of happiness, just to talk about the man that, she loved for 50 years, you know?
And I think
Um,
that's good advice for everyone, right?
hmm
Talk about your loved ones
hmm
when you feel okay to do so. Sometimes in the very beginning,
hmm
talking about it may not be the best
Right.
for you at that time, but at
Right.
some point, talk
Hmm.
about them to other people, especially, people, to your point, you said your grandfather died some years ago. Talk
Hmm.
about people who may not have the same memories of him. I think there's
Right.
healing in that as well.
Yes. Definitely. And even when you're like when other people are grieving, you know, if they say like I don't want to talk about that right now, respect that, you know.
Mhm.
Because sometimes we're just not there. And even if for me, I think it's been 29 years, I'm not good with math, but there's times like where I may not want to talk about something in regards to my grandfather. And that's okay, you know, but also be open, like when that person is ready to talk about it, be there for them and listen. Listen, I think if you leave with nothing else, listen and have empathy for people.
Definitely.
Hmm.
Okay. For people and grace for yourself.
Yes, yes, and patience.
Mhm. Thank you
Mhm.
so much, Kia. Thank you for all the information you've shared. I know it's been helpful for me, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's been helpful for everyone who's attending as well. And I think that's true based on all the hearts you're getting. So
Yes.
before I turn it over to my tri-chair, Mia, to close us out, I want to read something that I came across on Facebook. Like you said, Facebook has its issues, but sometimes you find good information there. And this
Yes.
really resonated with me knowing that this event was coming up. So
Hmm.
it reads, I guess you would say it's a bit of a poem.
Hmm.
The holidays are coming, and for some of us, this is not the season of matching pajamas in a kitchen that smells like cinnamon. For some
Hmm.
of us, this is the first holiday or the fifth without someone we love. And that kind of ache shows up like an uninvited guest. No knock, no warning, just sits in the living room of your heart and dares you to pretend everything is fine. Let me tell you something that might help you breathe again. Grief is like learning to walk after the ground beneath you disappeared.
Hmm.
You don't get over it. You learn your new balance, one shaky, holy human step at a time. And if no one else told you today, hear me. You're not behind. You're rebuilding a world that doesn't look the same anymore. That takes courage that can't be wrapped in a bow. Some days the grief will feel lighter. Some days it'll feel like it's sitting on your chest with both elbows.
Hmm.
Some days you carry it. Some days it carries you. Either way, you're still here. And that is something to be proud of. During the holidays, folks will tell you to be strong. Baby, strength is not pretending you don't miss them. Strength is feeling the ache and still choosing to show up for your life in the ways you can. So let the waves come. Just don't drown in the ones that already passed. And
Hmm.
here's the truth nobody says out loud. Your heart isn't broken, it's rearranging itself around the love you lost. Love doesn't vanish, it just changes rooms. So if you need a moment this season, take it. If
Hmm.
you need two, take those two. And if you need to cry while you're putting up lights or sitting in the driveway before going inside, that's not weakness. That's healing in real time.
Hmm.
Let this settle on your spirit today. Grief doesn't leave, it just changes its outfit. Healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means surviving with tenderness. You're not weak for missing them. You're human for loving them.
I love that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so now I'm going to turn it over to our tri-chair for Physical and Mental Health Committee, Dr. Mia Kirk.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this wonderful program. I'm looking at the chat and I'm seeing the love. Thank you so much. I needed this. One person says, sometimes it's important to just let it flow when possible. Giving myself permission to feel is not always easy, but your tips are definitely beneficial. Thank you so much for your feedback in the chat. It was our aim to provide our community with a program that is beneficial to your life in some way. As we progress through this season, please carry with you the reminder that grief has no timeline and that gentleness towards yourself is a meaningful act of care. May you find moments of peace, breath, rest, and quiet connection, both with those around you and with the memories you hold dear. Thank you for honoring your heart tonight and for allowing yourself this space. As we've learned tonight, as I've learned, I am not alone in my suffering. Love remains even in loss. I can carry grief and still care for my body. There is no rush. Grief unfolds in its own time. Thank you. Thank you. On behalf of the Physical and Mental Health Committee of Central Jersey Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, we thank Kia Alexander for joining us this evening and sharing her expertise. We hope that you reach out to her and continue your growth and journey and wellness. From this evening, I personally will take these management tips and strategies to uplift, to set realistic expectations, and just the understanding that grief contains different components of our lives beyond just losing a loved one. And we thank you for joining us for this important conversation. We value your feedback and we seek to learn more about the programs that the community wants. So I am sharing my screen so that we can gather some feedback from you. If you can take a few moments to share your feedback regarding this program and other suggestions for future programs, we would greatly appreciate it. We will also put a link to the survey in the chat, but the QR code is there for you to access the survey. When you access the survey, you want to select Keep It Moving Wellness Wednesday Guided Meditation. So thank you again for joining us, and that concludes our program for this evening.